the Z-Locked Challenge. The rules are simple. We're not allowed to turn by traditional means. Every single room is an entirely new puzzle to overcome. Can you beat The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time while Z-Locked? Last time, we completed the most difficult challenge yet in defeating Baronade and obtained the Zora Sapphire. Now, we set our sights on the Forest Temple and the Forest Medallion. The Forest Temple is quite maze-like and with a good bit of backtracking as well, something that's not particularly great for the Z-Lock challenge. Not to mention there is a puzzle at the end that could very well end the run completely. But first we have a few things to take care of, namely getting the Master Sword and the hookshot from Dampe's grave. We'll go ahead and skip all the cutscenes, obtain the Ocarina of Time, throw the fairy ocarina in the trash near the dead soldier in the back alley, get Din's Fire for safety, and it will actually be important a little later on, and pull the Master Sword. More cutscenes, even more cutscenes. Wow, there's a lot of cutscenes in this portion of the game. I forgot how much of a massive time sink this was. Eventually, we can become an adult and make our way into Dampe's grave. Dampe's race is another part in the run where we could see a massive difficulty spike. As you may have guessed, Dampe doesn't exactly run in a straight line, and speed isn't exactly something we're known for in the Z-Lock challenge. Luckily, most of the area is laid out in a 90-degree angle aside from the final part. Somehow we managed to beat this part in just about 5 minutes. I really wish that I could explain some of the issues that you can have here. By this point in the game, you just start to see issues a few steps ahead, and we managed to get it on the second try. Basically, just be careful not to lock onto Dampe as you'll go too slow to keep up with him, then manipulate your angle on the first flame that he throws to set yourself up for a ledge grab near the end of the race. You're looking for about a 90-degree angle to the right from when you start the area. If you mess this up, you can always try again on another fire, and it doesn't have to be particularly precise. Just be careful not to hit too many fires or spend too much time and you're good to go. Grab the hookshot and leave towards Kokiri Forest. It's a good idea at this point to pick up the Song of Storms on the way out. We'll be needing it a little bit later for the well. There's really nothing to stop us on the Lost Woods, so let's just go to the Sacred Forest Meadow. The Sacred Forest Meadow itself could be a bit of a pain given that we can't see where the moblins are without turning, but using bomb jumping, the same technique that we used in Dodongo's Cavern, we can skip over the top and avoid most of the hassle in this area. Now, as we move into the adult temples, you're going to notice these videos are getting quite a bit longer. That's because there's a surprising amount of things you need to do in between temples. I mean, just here we had all those cutscenes, and we had to do the Dampe's race as well, which could have been a lot longer of a segment, but I TLDR'd that for you. With that in mind, do you want me to try to condense even further down in between these temples and focus more on just the temples? I'm already pretty well condensing these down, but I suppose I could go a little bit further. Let me know what you think in the comments below and what you would like. While you're there, don't forget to drop a like on the video. It helps out the channel a lot. Finally, making our way into the Forest Temple, simply spin attack the Wolfos, which is much more consistent now that we have a magic meter. Spamming spin attack would also accidentally allow us to find another way to rotate during this challenge. If you spam spin attack while locked, Link will sometimes shift his angle ever so slightly. This is one of those hidden techniques that I hinted at in part 1. Given that this is very tedious and honestly pretty overpowered in the grand scheme of things, we're going to put this in the last resort category with roll turning. However, learning this technique would actually save the run well into the future, so I'm very glad that we got it out of the way and learned it now. Utilizing this spin technique, we can climb up the wall and get the first key. The jump between the trees is a bit tricky, but with a side hop and pretty precise spacing, it can be done. Damaging ourselves on the Golden Skull Trolla nearby will allow us a good angle to enter the temple proper. After wandering around a little bit, I decided to enter the courtyard using the block of time to turn towards the door. Climbing up the wall to the map is a bit tricky, but with some crafty ledge turns, it's not too bad. Honestly, I would advise just leaving the map alone this time. There is no way other than roll turning to change your angle in this small room. Getting the map basically assures that you will have to do so. Hit this switch to drain the well, using this little ledge here to shift your angle and grab our first key. Next, we're going to venture to the room with the two Stalfos and spin attack until they're both dead. I should say this isn't exactly trivial, as they will end up blocking most of your spin attacks. Grab the key and head to the room with all of the ladders. This is about the time when we learn just how powerful bomb turning would be for the rest of the run. Basically, you can select a pretty precise angle based on how Link is positioned around the bomb. Keeping it pretty simple here, anything in front of the bomb will cause Link to do this stumbling forward animation where he catches his balance, and anything behind the bomb will do the exact opposite. This will allow Link to either choose to face towards or away from the bomb depending on his angle. Imagine a straight line intersecting both Link and the bomb. Link will always turn on that line either away from or towards the bomb. This is extremely powerful in allowing us to choose a specific angle, and it even has a bit of a consequence, so it's not like roll turning, where you just do it all that you want. I really like this method of turning. It allows you to make an area a bit easier in exchange for some supplies and a bit of health. In the future, we will try to use this instead of roll turning for the rest of the run, given the supplies and health, of course. The block puzzle above is a complete snore fest. Just use ledge turns along the side of the upper area to push the blocks as you need them. You can also use a bomb jump if you like to make it faster in some areas. However, if you try to cheese it, this happens. Why are you like this? Yeah, I just voided out. The boy literally exercised himself to death. Sometimes you'll notice me running diagonally at a door. This is to try and find the interaction box, which at this angle sometimes only shows up for a frame or two. Realistically, we've been doing this the entire game, I just haven't really had a good time to bring it up. The next room with the Wallmaster can be pretty stressful, but eventually we realize that if you side hop, the Wallmaster would have to restart his attack, either ledge turn or bomb turn towards the door, and you're good to go. The next room of note will be the Stalfos room with the bow, which would end up being a fairly challenging room. Stalfos are a lot like Wolfos in that they will always try to get behind you, which is awful for this challenge. In addition to that, the second two Stalfos in this room will reform if you don't eliminate them at around the same time. In theory, this means that we can't just spin attack anymore and hope for good luck, as we simply wouldn't have the time for that. Instead, we would have to be a bit more careful and a bit more precise with our spin attacks. You see, Stalfos, for whatever reason, have a frame or two where they put their shield down and they are fully vulnerable during this time. I'm not really sure why they do this, but it can make this fight quite trivial normally. Couple that with the fact that they tend to be very aggressive when behind you, dropping their guard to attack, spinning becomes a very fast and reliable option again. We would end up dying here because the fight can get pretty far out of hand pretty quick if you're not careful, but with a bit of luck and precise timing, it's quite manageable. Obtain the bow, and we essentially had to roll turn out of this room. Not sure if there's any way around that aside from bomb turning, which we don't have any more bombs for the rest of the temple. I may have gone a little bit crazy bomb turning everywhere, so that's definitely something to keep in mind for the future. Before the Stalfos fight, we had set Pharaoh's Wind in the Red Poe Sisters room for this exact moment. When we enter the Red Poe Sisters room from the bow room, we're oriented to the west. This would allow us to destroy half of the Poe pictures, then in theory use Pharaoh's Wind, which we set at the original entrance, which happens to be facing the opposite way. Ride off valiantly into the sunset with our galaxy brain dragging along the road. Unfortunately, there was no sunset. Pharaoh's Wind actually resets the room entirely. In retrospect, I may have been able to use the torch on the ground floor of the room to turn as well. Admittedly, I kinda forgot that was an option. Mirror this on the other side, and that is 2 Poe Sisters down. The next few rooms are pretty easy. Even the room with the eye switch and the rotating platforms are pretty simple if you have Din's Fire, which oddly enough will melt the ice and activate the switch at the same time. The Green Poe Sisters block puzzle is something that I knew we were going to require a lot of strategy for. Given how awful our controls are, we can't really complete this block puzzle within the time limit. I thought maybe it was just an execution thing. Maybe if I was just a little bit faster, then I could make this happen. But despite my best efforts, I was just always a push or two away from victory. Honestly, I thought it was all over. Even roll turning was too slow. This completely overpowered ability that we had to keep ourselves from using was still not enough to make this puzzle happen. And then I realized something. The blocks are just rotating. Every single time that the timer runs out, these blocks will rotate another time, and eventually the block might rotate back to the way it was originally. After waiting for what seemed like forever, it actually worked. The way to beat this puzzle is just wait. After that, the rest of this level should prove to be very simple, right? Well, let's see. The purple Poe Sister could be annoying in theory, but is actually quite simple. Just wait to see which one moves, enter first person, being careful not to accidentally turn of course, and take them out when they come in front of you. The moving room below is a bit of a pain, but nothing really special here. And with that, we are finally presented with Phantom Ganon. The bosses so far have proven to be either completely trivial or extremely rage-inducing. So where does Phantom Ganon fall in that spectrum? Well, phase 1 is pretty simple. Just stand in one of the many safe spots and shoot as he crosses your path. Patience is definitely key here. Phase 2 is where things get very interesting. First off, even getting Navi away from Phantom Ganon is a bit of a pain, but eventually he'll just fly behind you and you can use that opportunity to Z-lock. Fighting Phantom Ganon without locking onto him creates a very interesting combat scenario where he will likely fly above you, making it impossible to hit him. However, if he does give you even a little bit of space, the angle that you hit the projectile back at him will likely result in him going down. He seems to have a really hard time deflecting projectiles that are not perfectly aligned with him. In the end, this is a pretty inconsistent way to try and fight Phantom Ganon and not really recommended. Eventually, we just lock onto him as there's little to break Z-lock in this fight and take him out. Because of the small size of the arena, he can't even break Z-lock by moving away from you, making this a fairly safe strategy. With Phantom Ganon defeated, we have completed the Forest Temple while Z-locked and obtained the Forest Medallion, allowing us to access the Water Temple. A very fun area for the challenge. But this, my friends, is a story for another time. If you enjoyed the content, please do consider leaving it a like and subscribe with notifications on, or you pretty much aren't subscribed at all at this point. Thank you so much to my patrons, channel members, and Twitch supporters over on twitch.tv/Newbornkilik, where this was live streamed. Anyway, I'm Newbornkilik, and I will see you in the next Z-Lock challenge. I'm out.